Okay, it's good. We are all good. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
It's
We've got
the 20th of June, 2025, and we are live in Dr. Kilt's channels. He has some technical difficulties at home and might not be able to join us. Maybe he will. Sometimes he's able to pop in. So everybody, please put in the chat where you're from, where you're watching from on this planet. And Ali in a second is going to tell you the hashtag. What are we giving up, giving away today?
sorry. It's hashtag Anthony, and today you are going to win Kill Health electrolytes.
All righty.
There you go. Sorry.
So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, preceded by a QQQ. Hopefully, Alia can catch those, and we can ask Anthony. And today we have Anthony Hayduk. Did I pronounce that correctly? Hayduk?
Pretty close. It's hey duck. Yeah, it's like hey and duck without the C.
Well, to me, it sounded the same with my Spanish.
Oh, look, here's Dr. Kiltz. He looks like he's trying to get on. That's good.
Okay. Yeah, I sent him a text. Anyways, so let's go ahead and start. Anthony, you have a remarkable ongoing story, and we met in Seattle a couple of weeks ago, and hopefully people will be hearing this and accompanying you on your journey. So go ahead and tell us who you are, where you're from, and tell us your story.
Hello, everybody. My name is Anthony Hayduk. I am now a 33-year-old male born and raised in Port Angeles, Washington, far west coast. I had the honors to meet Dr. Nelson and Dr. Kiltz about 2 weeks ago in Seattle, Washington at my second ever carnivore meetup. It was an amazing experience. To talk about my story and just get straight into the diagnosis I'm dealing with. First of all, by looking at me, you wouldn't really know there's anything wrong with me, and how I act, you really wouldn't know there's anything wrong with me. But since my 31st birthday till now, I've been diagnosed with stage 4 incurable GIST cancer. GIST stands for gastrointestinal stromal tumor. I've done 130 days straight of a targeted TKI therapy that I was told should work. During that 130 days of treatment, things escalated. I had major heart problems, seizures, convulsions. I ended up spending 9 or 10 months urinating blood.
Wow.
During which the 130 days after we did a PET scan, we realized the cancer had spread further throughout the liver. It had multiplied in size and locations throughout the liver. So the treatment I was on for 130 days didn't work. It actually aged me, we'll say 30 plus years. I probably looked like I was a 70-year-old man by the time I quit treatment. Eventually, we could probably show some pictures when the time comes.
Yeah, I'm getting that ready right now.
And no worries, no rush. And I ended up quitting treatment against all my oncologist and doctor's wishes on January 31st, 2023, once we realized the cancer wasn't under control with treatment. I made a game plan, and I decided to do different diets 3 months at a time between scan intervals to see what food groups would feed the tumors or not. I did plant-based, of course, standard American most of my life, Mediterranean. I did keto, and then eventually I hopped onto carnivore. with each food group that I was on, the tumors definitely slowed down, but they still were being fed. Plant-based and keto slowed it down to most, and the common factor was the amount of carbohydrates is what I realized. So I hopped on carnivore, and a quick little side note about why I hopped on carnivore and who influenced me to do it. I didn't know about any of these amazing doctors, by the way, back then. One of my friends sent me a video of this gentleman named Jeff the Prosperous. His YouTube name was Blessings on My Journey. An incredible man who was dealing with and thriving with stage 4 colon cancer, doing carnivore and chemo and the whole metabolic approach at the same time and having major success. So I ended up hopping on carnivore due to Jeff the Prosperous's story. And ever since then, I've been carnivore. I am now starting next month, 22 months into carnivore. And since I've been carnivore, the cancer has been stabilized. I've actually had some success in the past shrinking some tumors naturally. I think the biggest tumor shrunk about 30%, and then the rest have been stable. What I've realized through this journey, and I made this comment in the Seattle meetup, there is not a person on earth that I would say has an education great enough to tell somebody a timeline. On my 31st birthday is when I had the diagnosis, and I was told 6 months was my estimated timeline of life. I'll be 34 come September. So mindset, attitude, and not being afraid to fail is what's got me to where I'm at now. I learned a lot through failure. I've actually had 4 or 5 different surgeries and operations since 2022 till now. One was a major one where they cut me open from basically my hip bone to my chest, or rib cage. It was like a 10-inch scar. I'm actually missing a quarter to a third of my stomach and part of my intestines due to the softball-sized tumor they removed out of my guts. Which, side note, being how I'm missing internal pieces, some stomach and intestines, you would think it'd be hard to do carnivore. And actually, in my mid-20s, I had my gallbladder removed, so it's hard to eat fat. Carnivore is a high-fat, medium-protein diet, and I'm thriving on it. I don't get sick. I don't have the diarrhea from the fat intake. It just took a while for my body to adapt to the fat content. That's all. Was that the adaptation phase? Mm-hmm. I've actually had 3 different ureteral stent surgeries from the duration of chemo till the duration I hopped on carnivore. It was like a 10-month period from the time I quit chemo and hopped on carnivore. I had 2 stents installed for my left kidney to, my manhood so I could urinate. And then when I hopped on carnivore, I was able to remove the stent, which was amazing. And side note, with carnivore, I have not had any seizures or convulsions anymore, which has been a blessing. I've made this comment on other podcasts and to my friends and family. For the longest time, I was scared I was going to die from a heart problem, like a seizure or AFib or an irregular heartbeat issue, before I died from the cancer. And into my research, I realized people that dealt with AFib or epileptic seizures, they would go on a keto or a carnivore style diet and their seizures would get under control. I was never told that. I had to learn that on my own. And speaking of learning on my own, back in my mid-20s when I had the gallbladder removed, I was told I had to stay away from fat. Once you get your gallbladder removed, you can't eat it anymore. Once you get gallstones, you'll get them again. I realized the hard way is if I would have kept healthy fats in my diet, I probably would have never got gallstones in the first place. Sometimes you learn hard, but at least I'm learning, right?
So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat. preceded by QQQ so we can identify them quicker. Dr. Kills, do you have any comments?
Good morning, all. And
Morning.
thank you, our
Good
good
morning.
friend Anthony Hayduk, for being here and sharing this amazing story. We met when we were out in Seattle a couple weeks ago, I think. No, I don't know, somewhere in there.
2 weeks, yeah.
2 weeks ago, yeah, it was amazing. And it's carnivore is the optimal human diet because it eliminates poisons from plants, which are ultimately the cause of all our disease. And it is crazy. And you're right, fat. You have to eat fat. So amazing. And anything special happening today?
Yeah, the release of the animal documentary is happening today.
Yeah. It's really exciting. So you can go to h20studios.com. H20.
H20.
20.
Or animal.movie. I found yesterday goes to the same place.
Animal.movie.com. Yes?
No, animal.movie.
Movie. Oh,
Yeah.
Cool. Awesome.
So, Dr. Kills, this is your one of your niches. I don't know how to
Nietzsche.
something happened just backstage before we came live, and I have to mention it because we're asking him a little bit about what's going on with him. I had heard his story. I met him as soon as I came into the theater in Seattle. He was there in the lobby, and Alia said, "So what's going on with your cancer?" And he said, "No, it's not my cancer. It's the cancer. It's not my cancer." He's not claiming it. Okay, and I Dr. Kills talks a lot about mindset, and that was, I think, remarkable. Not claiming it as yours, right? Because it may have an influence on how you're dealing with it. It does have an influence.
Yeah, everything you think creates the life you live. And that's the simplest story. That's why we need to choose our words wisely in life. But it's part of the learning journey also, right? We're sharing ideas of how important it is to select the words and the way, but this is part of the training grounds, the journey of life, right? Everything happens for a reason, and it all is good because it's all created by God. And every thought you think creates the life you live. That's kind of who and what we are. What do you think of that, Anthony?
Honestly, I'm going to kind of flash back to Seattle real quick towards the end of my speech. I got the honors to speak in Seattle with the Carnivore Meetup, and at the very last, what one of my sayings is, I want to be the person, and I'd love it to rub off on everybody around me that listens to my story, is don't ever let an illness or a disease or a disability define who you are and what you're capable of. Mindset is everything. You could be 100% normal, 100% healthy, and your negative mindset will make you sick and you'll be a prisoner in your own mind and body. Mm-hmm. And if you don't mind me cussing on screen for a half a second, the day I got my diagnosis, I actually, I cried. My mom was with me. We had a moment of grief. The doctor, stepped out of the room so we could cry for 5 or 10 minutes. And she came back in, and the oncologist asked me, "What are you thinking?" And of course, initially, I was like, my life's over. I lost my father in 2019 from cancer. I'm following in his footsteps. Luckily, it's a different type. And by the time I left that oncology clinic that day, I told the oncologist, "You know what? I don't care if the cancer rides in my side pocket or my back pocket, but it's not going to control me. I'm going to make cancer my bitch one way or another. And I've had that attitude since day one. I'm not afraid to fail. I'm afraid of not learning why I failed.
And can you put up the picture again, Alia?
Mhm.
So this is February 2023 and February 2025. There's 2 years in between. You were already fighting this thing. And I mean, when you look at it, I understand why some people might say, well, is that your father in the picture? Or I mean, you definitely look, I don't know, 20, 30 years older in this other picture. And you've done some body remodeling, basically,
Even mine's already
Remodeling.
while having this thing inside you.
So the picture in February 23 was my very first day in the gym. It was literally 3 weeks after quitting chemo. My childhood buddy, he's like, you know what? Before you die, you need to fight naturally and see what the gym will do for you. So I, of course, had to take a picture my first day in. I was really embarrassed. I hit the gym 6 days a week for 2 hours a day for the first year. And like I said, for 9 months to 10 months, I urinated blood daily. Like stoplight red. It was bad. And I still went to the gym. And I just believed that eventually things would get better. And flash forward now, 2.5 years later, what's crazy, and I even made this comment at the carnivore meetup in Seattle, is living with stage 4 incurable gist cancer. I have never felt so good in my life. And from a blood work perspective and a liver function perspective, my blood work hasn't looked this good in probably 15 years, and my liver hasn't acted this good in probably 15 years. And that's where the cancer had spread to, is the liver.
So, in fact, the words the doctor spoke are incorrect.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's really what you're saying, is that it is the doctors lead their practice often with incorrect concepts and ideas, that we're all sharing an idea that carnivore is actually the game changer, and spreading the word is so important because our brothers and sisters are suffering these plant-based diseases.
I'm 100% firm believer without carnivore, I may not be here anymore, or I would still be progressively getting worse and worse and worse. At my very worst, before I quit chemo, I actually had stopped driving. My parents drove me. My mom was bathing me. When I was plant-based, I still had seizures all the time, which tells me there's something either in plants or in carbohydrates that causes, the epileptic seizures to happen. With carnivore, and this is kind of going to be blunt, flashing back to when I was a kid, about 5 or 6 years old is when I recall having bowel movement problems, bathroom problems, constipation issues, bloating, actually even bloody stools from time to time because I was so constipated. I'd stretch out my, I don't know what, a sphincter or whatever, and I'd bleed when I'd go to number 2. And from about 5 or 6 years old up until carnivore, that was my problem. That was my issue. And to be even more vulnerable and honest and embarrass myself even worse, back when I was working full-time in the timber industry as a tree climber and a logger, the nickname at work was Bounty Bob, because I would always walk around with ass wipe in my pocket because I never knew I was about to go to take a shit. I was always so sick. It was pretty bad.
We all have a asshole. And I think this is what we're all suffering from, the same things, and often are afraid to talk about it. But I think what you're saying is we got to share it all.
Yeah.
Talk
The good, the bad, and everything in between. You know, it's how we learn.
Right?
Right. You have some questions, Alia?
Yeah, we do. Let's see. Anthony from Don Smith. Are you in the lumber industry? How does carnivore help you in your daily work?
So to answer that question, from the time I graduated high school up until July of 2022, I was in a tree service industry as initially a laborer, dragging branches. Eventually, you know, they taught me how to run a saw. They taught me how to climb. The highest I've been is about 165 feet up a tree. People get pretty small up there. Right now, I'm actually on disability due to the cancer. So what I've been doing with my daily life and time is actually doing the metabolic approach, which is basically a full-time job to put my body into a state where my body can control the cancer. You know, I wake up every day, first thing in the morning, quick shower just to get clean, and I hop in the cold tank. I built a cold plunge. It was like a 13-month project because, you know, finances. And I do that plunge every day. It is literally the most thing I hate to do. I don't look forward to being cold. It's 44 degrees for 3 to 8 minutes. Some days I drop it down to 36 degrees. I've even added 24 to 50 pounds of ice with me at times. But when I get out of the plunge, I feel like $1,000,000. You know, the endorphin dump's amazing. I can feel the mitochondria stimulate. I actually regulate heat a heck of a lot better than I used to. During chemo and even prior to chemo, I would keep my fifth wheel at 75 to 80 degrees. And if I showed you the thermometer right now, 65 degrees is what I keep it at. And I'm in a t-shirt all the time. It's amazing on just how the metabolic approach and carnivore could change the body for the better. You know, I go to the gym every afternoon for strength training. Well, I strength train now 4 days a week. It was 6 days a week, but I've realized the stronger you get, the more recovery you need. And actually, I got the shirt on 1,000-pound club about a couple months ago. I did the Rogue Fitness Challenge. And this was 2 years into the gym. I did the challenge, and my bench, I believe, was 260 pounds for the challenge. And when I first started the gym, I could barely bench 100 pounds, and that was like for 2 reps. So I put on, you know, quite a bit of weight on my bench press. My biggest squat at the time for the Rogue Challenge was 365 pounds ass to grass, and my deadlift was 420 or 440 pounds with no wraps, just a back brace or a belt. I'm actually now training for the 1,250-pound class, so I actually just hit a 285-pound bench a couple of days ago, so I'm getting stronger. The goal is to get to 315 for bench. I want to get a 445 on squat, and I'm training to get a 500-pound deadlift. My biggest deadlift right now is 455 for 1 rep, but I could pull 405 for 7 reps. And
I'm curious if you had a chance to talk to Dr. Baker.
I have not had a chance to talk with him, but I would not only love to talk with him, I would love to get humbled with the workout with him because that dude is a beast.
Well, you're
I
not
actually
that
want to try the Maggie challenge and use the 60-pound, you know, buckets or dumbbells and try to walk that quarter mile like she did.
All right.
How are we doing on questions here today?
We got some
Yes.
more. Rachel 2. My dad was diagnosed with stage 4 colon cancer a month ago. He has been intermittent carnivore for about a year. He's dieted to go on an extended fast to fight cancer, but she had another part of this question that disappeared. She wanted to know, how do you, after a 40-day fast, start eating again? How do you refeed after a 40-day fast?
Well, for one, I've never done a 40-day fast, so that might be a question for the doctors. But my opinion is you would treat that 40-day fast like you would with any long fast, and you would break it easy with some bone broth. Maybe after some bone broth, have a poached egg. From my understanding and my research, a poached egg is the easiest to digest far as a nutrient standpoint. It's better than raw. It's better than fried. And then probably, if you could handle it, maybe some beef tartare. Raw steak digests the best.
Nice.
I'm actually
And then-
6 months into raw steak.
Wow.
It's the best.
Wow.
It's the best, the healthiest, for sure. And I think raw eggs are also good. I do raw eggs and raw beef.
Yeah, I do about 6 raw eggs a day and about a pound of raw beef a day.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, we're the only animal that cooks its food.
Yeah.
It's true. I wonder why that started, but interesting. Rachel 2 says, how does Anthony stay in therapeutic ketosis? My dad is 76 with the stage 4 cancer.
So for me to stay in ketosis, for one, the carnivore diet is a must. I mean, some people could stay in ketosis with keto. For me, I had difficulties staying in ketosis with keto because I didn't have discipline with the actual carbohydrate control. Once you have a little bit of carbs, it breaks down into sugar. Sugar, I believe, is like 4 times more addictive. Sugar is 4 times more addictive than cocaine, I believe. So I had to be in carnivore, full on carnivore, to be able to stay in ketosis. And I don't know who all knows about the Keto Mojo device from Professor Thomas Sidfree. I have one of those. It's been a learning curve to use. And some days I couldn't figure out why I didn't have a good GKI, which is glucose ketone index. I couldn't figure it out. Well, I'm pretty lean. I'm pretty muscular. I'm really active. And as I've been finding out from other people is you could be in ketosis, but not really show a good GKI number because your body's using the ketones as it's making them. So it's not going to register having extra. Maybe the doctors could correct me on any of that statement, but that's my thoughts process on it.
I don't think it's critical.
Go ahead, Dr. Fields.
Yeah. I don't think it's as critical because you're right. I mean, your ketones, acetyl-CoA, are really from fat are the energy for the cells. And a lot of it is really just the glucose levels more than anything. As the glucose levels drop or rise, and the ketones are always there. The more fasting you do, the higher the ketones for sure, because that glucose really drops. But I don't think it's as critical. I think the most important part is focus on fat. And I don't personally measure all this stuff, but I know I talked to Dr. Siwas yesterday. We talked about that. People like to see something that's going to give them motivation, just like your weightlifting and how powerful that is to make different markers in all of that. So what are your thoughts, Dr. Nelson?
In regards to cancer specifically, this seems to be very important, and I try myself to have the best levels I can achieve, but it's not easy after being carnivore for a while. It seems it's more difficult to measure higher levels because you're using them more efficiently. I was going to make a comment about colon cancer in general. When we look back 40 years, 50 years, and we see the trajectory of all gastrointestinal cancers, in particular colon cancer, someone was mentioning here, there are 2 things that have been happening. Used to be that most colon cancers were actually, we're going to get into some physical exam descriptions here, but were actually at the reach of a digital rectal exam. Okay. More than 50-70% of the cancers were actually that far down the intestine. And over the years, it has moved the finding to all over the colon. With that, the age at which people are being diagnosed has been dropping to the point that now sometimes
Oh.
20s and 30-year-old people are getting diagnosed with the routine. I'm not talking about the GIST specifically, but with the routine colon cancer. And it's really scary that you, being that young in the 20s or 30s, have to be worrying about colon cancer when this was, just a disease that definitely mostly happened in 50s, 60s, 70 year old people. Why do you think that is, Dr. Kelts?
Well, first of all, is cancer an iatrogenic disease?
I don't think so.
Well, our advice is what diet as doctors?
Plant-based, low fat.
Plant-based, low fat. So we're actually giving you the advice of actually a cancer-causing diet. So essentially, it makes it iatrogenic. The health care community, it focuses on a healthy, well-balanced, organic diet full of colors and fiber and all those things, which ultimately are plant-based and fuel and/or are the direct link and cause of cancer. And that again, iatrogenic, meaning that in some way our treatments to our patients are actually causing disease and cancers. That's my concern. And I think because the low fat craze, remember, fat suppresses inflammation in the gut. And so a low fat diet reduces one of the healing powers of fat in one of the most common areas of cancers, which is the gut. And so we're learning that a high fat diet is actually the very best thing. And fat comes from animals, oils come from plants. And so I think that's one of the most important parts of the story.
One of my sons, I'm sorry.
Go
ahead, finish. One of my sons, at the age of 29, he had a colonoscopy. They found a tumor. It was not cancerous, but it was the type of polyp that turns into cancer. So it was a precancerous polyp. 29 years old, and it was a few inches. At 29, he didn't have the colonoscopy. He was having more upper GI issues. The doctor wanted to also do a lower endoscopy. So almost serendipitous. They found this. If he had not found that, he wouldn't have made it to 40. And, he's the father of my grandchild.
Does the body, may the body fight many cancers anyway? There's a lot of inflammation in our bodies, and a lot of that inflammation, the inflammation is just there to sort of try to clean up all the damage that's constantly done.
And research shows that we all almost every day we have a cancer cell popping up, and then our body, through autophagy and all these things, takes care of those cells, removes them, regenerates, makes new cells. So our body's actually constantly getting rid of cells that are not functioning correctly. So it does, your system, when it's effectively getting rid of those, doesn't allow cancer to even start.
So Lexi Jones is here. We're on Kilt's Mighty Tribe. Let's see, Agnieszka is here. Diana Hill, Barbara. Let's see, Kuiper, Camp Hill, PA. Diana Hill, Washington, Cooking Breakfast. Let's see, Ray Cruz, North Carolina. Judy Jones, Sweetwater, Alabama. Let's see, Lorraine Poulin, Sarah Martin from East Tennessee, Judy Jones. Let's see. Does carnivore heal hypertension? Answer: absolutely. Fatty meat, the very best. Dr. Gomez from Orlando's here. There was a question here from Morocco. How about topic of bedroom calisthenics? Is this the best part about dropping entertainment foods? Carnivore helps everything. Let's see. Question on how long? Nearly 15 years from Kilts. And Sarah Martin comments her sister had thyroid removed due to cancer. Is there any special information on carnivore and thyroid disease, Dr. Nelson?
I don't know if the question has to do with research or studies, but
Just what are your thoughts?
Most thyroid disease seem to improve with carnivore. Now, some people still need to remain on some level of supplementation.
Yeah. Her thyroid's been removed, it says. So, in essence, still need to take it. But thyroid, all diseases are improved on carnivore. Is that what you said?
Yeah. We have more questions, right, Alia?
Well, let me just finish here. Just real quick, because Kilt's Mighty Tribe gets a little left out a little bit. So I just want to go down there.
Sure.
And then Diane Hill, will raw beef help with gut issues caused by medication? I think again, raw beef helps with everything. And fatty beef, that's one of the important parts. And then Bill Cook says hi, William Cook, and Mark Sapien says hi. All right. Go for it, Alia.
Next question.
I love the background.
Thank you.
I think Kilts needs a new background.
We'll do it. We'll make one. We'll get one made.
Well, you look celestial today.
Yeah.
with the
light,
green screen.
The light from the blinds.
I flew from Sarasota to Syracuse Skinny Atlas last night. I get home, the generator's on. There's so the lights are on, and then suddenly the lights go out, even though the generator's on, and then the carbon monoxide alarms starts going off all over the house. There was no carbon monoxide, but they were just chirping. I had to put earplugs, and I pretty much sleep in a closet last night.
Oh, God.
And then this morning, my computers decided not to give me a camera or a mic.
Oh, God.
But we're back. Go ahead.
Okay, so, Leon, what was Anthony's eating style like before he adopted a low-carb diet?
So basically my whole entire life was standard American diet. Whatever my parents would cook me as a kid, I'd eat. I always ate all the leftovers. I was the garbage gut of the family. Like, there was never leftovers in the fridge because I'd put it down. And when I became an adult, 18 plus, whenever my mother would make a home cooked meal, I'd eat at home or I'd go out to restaurants. So I actually, to answer two questions at once, because I'm sure somebody's going to ask, well, how do you afford carnivore? I'm actually spending a lot less money on food per day now as a carnivore than I used to when I was on a standard American diet. When I was working, when I was eating the standard American diet, I was $70, $80 a day into coffee, food, eating out, whatever it could be. And I'm like $20 to $30 a day right now in food. I could get it down to $15 a day right now if I just ate ground beef and bacon and egg. It's the steaks that get somewhat expensive, but you just need one fatty steak a day. And if you eat it raw, you don't have to spend any money on cooking.
How much ground beef do you eat a day? If you eat, how many pounds?
So for meat a day, about 2 to 2.5 pounds of meat a day. And about 6 to 12 eggs a day. I did the macros. I'm about 4,000 calories a day in food if I did the macros, and about 65-70% of it's from fat. My ground beef is at a 60-40 mixture, so it's higher in fat, higher in calories, and less in protein. The fattier you make your beef, the less protein intake and the more calories. I think from a 1 cup of fat is like 2,000 calories, which again, I don't think we have to eat by calories. We have to eat by satiation, like Dr. Shapey says.
Okay. Dr. Kiltz is on mute.
You quiet, buddy.
Yep. Fat is what our body wants. I was hearing background noise, wasn't sure it was mine, so I muted it. Fat is critical to eat, but when we eat adipose tissue versus lean muscle tissue, we're getting a better component of the minerals, vitamins, amino acids, simple sugars, and fatty acids. And I want to just, sugar is in all cells of all organisms. When we eat meat, we're getting, and fat, we're still getting the sugars there. So I'm just wondering if our real problem isn't what we say is sugar, but it's the plant poisons. And as you mentioned, Anthony, that sugar is more addictive than cocaine. And you know, I think maybe the part of that is, I mean, ultimately, the sugars from plants are part of what could be part of our diet in small amounts. And the human body is not dumb. It wants you to eat it in order to be alive. It doesn't care about longevity. It just cares about surviving long enough to reproduce. Lindsay,
Anthony, what does your day look like to keep your mindset strong? How do you keep your positive energy going?
So that's going to be a 2-part question. The first part of the question is, the first part of the answer is going to be about a month after quitting chemo, maybe a couple weeks after quitting chemo, I went down to Portland, Oregon, to see a GIST specialist. I ended up staying in the Ronald McDonald House, which is, if you don't know, it's a whole bunch of sick minor children. Mm-hmm. And when I walked in, you know, my heart sank. I felt sorry for myself. I was like, this is a whole different experience than the local cancer center I dealt with. And this young 5 or 6-year-old kid came up to me. "What's wrong, mister?" And I explained my situation and I started crying. The little kid came up and gave me a hug and said, "It's okay. You're going to make it." And that broke me. So ever since then, you know, I try to go to church. I try to change my mindset. I try to be 100% positive all the time, not just part of the time. And if I'm being honest, I tried church like 5-6 different times, you know, through this cancer journey. And every time I went to church, I made it 5 or 10 minutes and walked out. It wasn't for me. I just couldn't get my mind right. And then August this last year, when I was keto, getting ready to transition to carnivore, or I guess the year prior to last, because I'm now 22 months into carnivore, my friend invited me to church again. And through the healing, I went to church. I made it about 20 minutes in, and I just bawled my eyes out. You know, God is what I needed. I finally let myself in, you know, made myself vulnerable. And every day now, since I've been believing in God and putting him, you know, into my thought process, as I wake up, I'm grateful to breathe. I'm grateful to breathe the air. I'm grateful to have 2 legs, you know, stand on my feet. I start every day with positive affirmations and keep them going throughout the day. And I've realized with mindset and discipline and self-control, not every day is going to be perfect. Not every moment is going to be perfect. But those bad moments are literally just a moment. Have your frustration, have your grief, and get the F over it and move on to be positive again.
Be done. It is done.
Yep.
That's it.
Next question.
I say that though because negativity and positivity are both contagious. And what would you rather spread?
Positivity.
Blood thinner. Are you taking any blood thinner medication or aspirin, or had a procedure near your bladder causing? Oh, what would you cause your bladder bleeding, or your urinary blood?
I think it was the chemo. Honestly, the targeted therapy I was on
probably damaged the kidneys.
Because the targeted therapy I was on also fried my testicles. What's that called? Hypergonadism. And so my testosterone levels 8 or 9 months after quitting treatment were 240. I was compared to like a 12-year-old girl. Maybe you doctors could correct me on what a male's testosterone is supposed to be. From my research, is like 550 to 800 is average in today's generation. But through my research and my understanding, previous generations like Dr. Kiltz and Dr. Nelson's and even maybe your fathers had higher levels of testosterone naturally, and our lifestyles, our food, and everything we do that's taking away from our natural life is suppressing our hormones and suppressing our testosterone and estrogen levels as a whole. And I'm sure you guys could correct my statement or add to it. Male or female, hormones need to be balanced. You need to have those levels, and cholesterol and high fat really helps with hormones.
I don't like to use the word balanced hormones because hormones aren't balanced.
Okay.
I mean, the word balance, they're always changing. Just kind of natural in our and how the body works, especially for women. They're going all over the place. That's natural and normal. And I think, how did you, I have a low testosterone. According to the numbers, I feel fine. I don't have any low, as they say, low testosterone problems. So I just, symptoms. And I don't take testosterone. And so I always wonder, are we, is it possible we're just sold a need to take a hormone as one of the sort of the marketing things for medication sometimes also, not in all cases, in some cases. So just another interesting thing. Rick, I like this. So this idea that we undereat, I think, is overly that we overeat is pushed. Undereat, and pushing people to eat more on carnivore. I don't think is necessary personally. I do about a fistful of food a day, maybe 2 some days, and other days I don't even eat. I'm trying to be as good as Dr. Nelson and do some 10-day fast that's coming, but I'm working on my 7-day fast for July.
However, you do understand that Rick eats 4 to 6 pounds of meat. That's why he's making the comment.
Yeah. But I do, again, the fat in our body is the fuel for our body. It's the building block for our body. And the idea that we're mostly poisoned in this world, not nutritionally depleted. I don't think that's our problem. We're simply poisoned by plants, and our one depletion is fat more than anything. So yes, thank you, Dr. Nelson. There was another question there, Alia.
We have a lot of questions.
Here's.
Oh, go ahead, Dr. Kiltz.
Oh wait, you're hitting and I'm hitting it also.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, Dawn. No, we're pushing a paradigm. We're pushing a marketing message of hormone balancing and bioidentical hormones, and you need them. But in fact, probably not, in my opinion. Next one.
Target prime rib, Thomas. Anthony. On a non-medical but healing question, I know humor is a great healer. My mom loves to watch I Love Lucy. What do you do to get it laughing?
Honestly, make myself vulnerable and embarrass myself. You live in the moment. Live with no regrets. Make jokes. They could be cheesy. They could be corny. Always a good comedy show is great. At the gym, I'll go up to anybody, whether it's a younger gal, an older gal. Hey, you need a spot? And if they say yes, sometimes they say no. But I've really learned how to get out of my shell. And I'll go up to my friends or even, people in the gym that I'm not really friends with, but they know me. And I'm like, they'll be on the cardio machine, treadmill, stair climb. I'm like, do you need a spot? And they just start busting up laughing because you don't need a spot, on the treadmill or stair climber.
Mhm.
So I'm just immature humor, living in the moment, just having fun in life with no regrets. I don't really care what somebody thinks of me or not on how I act. I've realized that the only thing you can worry about is your own thoughts on what you do. If you spend time worrying about somebody else, what they're going to think of you, it's going to take away from your daily life and how you feel.
But so every thought of everyone else is not their thought. It's your thought.
Yeah.
And so this is the trick of life. Everyone thinks amazing and great of me. Everyone loves me and I love them. That's a sort of part of the fueling of the language is because which we live so much is, this is why do not criticize, condemn, or compare. And comparison is the thief of joy. Meaning, and we're using our own mindset to create the world. And so we have the ability to simply think, wow, it's just a great day. Thank you. If someone comes and says something that is negative, as we may have aligned it, I usually say, oh my God, you're right. Thank you. I appreciate you.
That's good. I like that.
In a loving way, always.
JJ, how would you eat raw eggs?
For me, I've learned I have to mix them up. I can't do them whole.
You haven't
My
yet.
first time.
You haven't yet.
I'll try it one of these days.
Well, I always say you could, but you just haven't yet. I mean, like anything else, it's all a mindset, right?
Yeah. Well, just the first time eating raw steak, it was all mindset. I did a 7-day
Right.
fast. I'm like, I'm hungry. Let me eat a steak. I'm like, oh, I'm out of propane. I'll just eat it raw.
Here we go. This one, Papa Carnivore. I wish I could get my girlfriend to do carnivore. She gets sick a lot. My girlfriend loves carnivore and she's healthy and well.
Just change the language.
Change the language. As we think, so everything is. Right on. Let's see. June 20th, Boston meetup. Exciting. Yeah, 28th.
June 28th is very exciting.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about that.
Yeah. Awesome. I think humor is so important.
Have more questions?
I just want to bring this up for a second. Maybe if I do line for a while, maybe the negative thought noise will disappear. But what if you force yourself to have good thoughts as opposed to bad thoughts?
Yeah.
Or enjoy the good thoughts. Appreciate the good thoughts.
Well, you create them. You create them. God creates them. So it's all created in a mindset. Every thought you think creates the life you live, period. Done. See you later.
That's why I say I'm blessed to have cancer.
Or I'm just blessed.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Well, without the C word, I wouldn't be where I'm at.
And maybe, again, I'm healthy and well. And because as you said, the docs said it was a nail in the coffin, a death sentence, when in fact you said, nope, you got it wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
It all goes back to mindset, changing things from negative to positive.
Yeah.
I lost the question, but we'll answer this one. We got a few minutes left, by the way. Don Hoover, how much water do you drink? Should I force half the body weight, or is it only when you're thirsty? Half your body weight in water sounds awful.
I don't know how that'd be possible.
We drink too much water. We drink too much water. That's all it is.
I mean, I got a big jug, but if I'm not actually active that day, I don't drink the whole jug. If I'm active and sweat a bunch, I'll replenish. The only reason why you've been seeing me sipping on screen because I just recently brushed my teeth and I don't like that taste in my mouth.
Next question.
Next question. Maxi Arte. Okay. What about water with apple cider vinegar? Anyone doing it?
I don't do it.
I don't do it. I did it. It stained my teeth. There you go. Rachel, my 74-year-old mother has type 2 diabetes and heart failure. She's been fasting for 3 days. She would like to fast longer, but does not know what is safe. Is it better to do shorter 2-3 day fasts?
We don't have a lot of information as to, what medication she's taking, the level of illness she has, and all that. So just such a general comment, she's already doing a 3-day fasting. That's great. You can just do multiple of those. You don't necessarily need to do 40 days fasting. But if you throw in regular fastings once a week or 2 or 3 days a month, I think that can have great benefit.
Yeah, and fasting is still one of the best healing things. The body says, don't eat, just do the cave, do the nest, rest. And all these medications that, I mean, if you had to withdraw from alcohol or drugs, and if you found yourself just in a spot where you're like in the cave, you're hibernating, you're nesting, probably one of the best things you can do. But I think fasting 5 to 7 days is really fantastic. It builds a lot of strength, and I know Dr. Nelson does them regularly, and he's a strong guy. Next
is
just go down the start, right? You going right down the start?
Camstad. Anthony, have you had a chance to look into his top truths? I can't say that.
Histotripsy.
Histotripsy
The
after your
answer
message.
is no, I haven't. I haven't had a chance yet.
And then he says, I had my first cancer liver treatment with histotripsy last week. There you go. That's the question. Those are the questions. We've gone through the questions. There you go.
By the way, histotripsy is using ultrasound waves to break up the tumors. It's not specific for cancer. You can treat cirrhosis or tumors that are benign. It doesn't differentiate. It just the liver gets hard as it gets more cirrhosis, and tumors are more solid than usually the liver. So the technology is to break up the tumor, similar to when they're treating sometimes kidney stones with ultrasound waves.
So Bill Cook says raw eggs are a no-no, according to Dr. Berry. Says you should cook egg whites so you can absorb the proteins. That doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, plants, when we cook plants, we increase their digestibility, but eggs and meat, I think we actually damage them, and they're more favorable raw. Plants are less favorable.
My granddog, I guess, my daughter's dog, loves raw eggs.
Yeah, I mean, have stuff that messes with men's health. Rocco, I don't know, Rocco. It doesn't make sense to me. But I'm just I like to think in a way that makes sense. All right, let's do our prize.
Prize. Okay, everybody. Hashtag Anthony while I'm getting the screen shared here. This is Kilt's Health electrolyte supplements today.
Yeah.
Hey, J-Bud. Cool. Congratulations. Awesome. Email me your address and I'll get that shipped to you.
At
Yay! Alia at
Alia,
drkiltstock.
All right.
Yay.
Thank you all. Appreciate everyone. I'm upstate New York this week and something like that.
This
We don't have
weekend,
anything this Saturday, Sunday. Nothing?
nothing. I think you're off. You're off this
All right.
weekend. You're going to a wedding. That's what you
All
got.
right. All right.
All
Have a
right.
good day,
We'll see y'all
everyone.
Monday.
Thanks for having
Bye,
me, and I'll
everybody.
see you in
Thanks,
July,
Anthony.
Dr. Kiltz.
All right. My pleasure. We look forward to it.
Sounds good.
Bye.
Pleasure, everybody.
All right.